So hello everyone, I'm Antra Banerjee and I along with my fellow mates are representing Robotics Club, Indian Institute of Technology, BHU, Varanasi, India. It gives us immense pleasure to be a part of this international collaboration with MAE Robotics Club, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore to conduct this Pi Bullet workshop for you all. Ajitesh, yeah. So about us. We are a student group from the Robotics Club IIT BHU, and year-long we organize workshops, events, competitions, and parallelly work on novel projects. We also conduct a summer camp for our freshers to introduce them to different subdomains of robotics. RoboRec, which stands for Robotics Research Group, is a wing under the Robotics Club that particularly focuses on research-based projects. So here is a sneak peek into the kind of projects and the kind of work we do. Yeah, Ajitesh, next slide. Ajitesh, you can move forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Antra, for actually briefing us about the club. So now if we come to the part that you all must be aware that this is a 3-day Pi Bullet workshop. Over the course of 3 days, you have our advisors, Lokesh, who is the Roborec technical head, and Niran sir, who is the Robotics Club secretary. Informer coordinators, Antra, me, and Surbit will be taking the lead. And to organize and conduct the workshop, you will always have our 6 mentors who will be there to solve any of your doubts and to clear any of your understandings which you encountered during the workshop. So if we look at the workshop structure, how it will be conducted. So I hope everybody must have got the Pi Bullet installation instructions through Discord. And if you have any doubts regarding it, you can always type it in the chat box. And even at the end of today's workshop, we'll be having a short doubt clearance session regarding the Pi Bullet installation. And in terms of the content covered today, we'll be having an introductory talk by one of our seniors, which will be followed by the Pi Bullet installation. I am sure that everybody of you must be new in Pi Bullet, so don't need to worry about it. We'll be covering everything from basic. If we go over today, we'll be getting started with Pi Bullet, how to load URDF files and what are the type of joints present there, demo, everything like that, which will be followed by in day 2 of controlling the robot. You will be able to learn how a robot is actually controlled in Pi Bullet and how the simple robot kinematics works. That is how it moves forward, backwards, and everything followed by it. The workshop will actually be concluded with the dynamic parameters of the simulation, the robot control, and I'm not getting deep into it because I'm sure that you all must be very new to it. So don't worry, we'll be covering everything from the start. But apart from the workshop, you must be thinking that what are the other resources we can use? So all the workshop resources are actually present in our GitHub repo. If I can take you through it, this is the repo which we have made for this 3-day workshop. For example, if I go into the day 1, some basic stuff, these all codes which you all can see, you will see how to use them in today's workshop. We will be covering through it. For example, if you want to see that about the day 1 slide, so you can easily move forward to it and you can move through all of this test. Everything of it is useful and will actually enhance your knowledge. And for example, you have to see the day 1 slides. So it can all be seen in the some important links. For example, for slides of this topic, we can visit the slides here, visualizing your ERDF. You can all go through these links, which would actually be useful. And for example, it might be possible that your all doubts might not be able to clear in the workshop session. So don't worry about it. You all must have joined the Discord channel already. Just make sure that you ask your doubts there, and our mentors who will be taking the workshop will always be there to help you. Just make sure that you tag any of the mentors, or even if you type with a doubt like that, we will try to solve your doubt shortly. And apart from this, we have provided with some other links of Pi Bullet documentation. And if you are very keen into learning through videos and all, we have provided a Kevin Lynch channel, which is a very good channel for getting started with Pi Bullet. Now, I would actually request one of our seniors, Lokesh sir, to begin today's session by introducing and taking the introductory talk.
Yeah, thank you, Ajitesh. Let me just put up my screen. Yes, I hope my slides are visible and my voice is all clear. Can anyone just confirm with me whether the slides are visible?
Yeah, slides are visible.
Okay, perfect. So I think that would be a gray box or something. Okay, so thanks a lot, Antara and Ajitesh. So as introduced by Antara previously, I'm Lokesh, the technical lead of Roborec at IIT BHU. So I'll be taking you through a very intuitive introduction to robotics. So you all are currently the freshers and will be joining NTU, one of the most prestigious institutes for engineering and tech. So it's a great pleasure to us for us to do this. So on that note, let's quickly ask this question. So what is a robot, right? So this is a question for which most of us think we know the answer. So we all think that we understand robot at different levels and we know what a robot is, especially because this is what we see. So this is the robotics as shown by Hollywood and other films and etc. So because of this heavy media exposure, we all think that we know what robots are and what robots are capable of. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So for the film and for other reasons, it's heavily hyped, exaggerated. Nevertheless, these entities are often motivations or inspirations to get to that level, but sometimes they just get severely exaggerated. So you can see here, this is real from Atom from Real Steel. You have Baymax, and then here there is iBot giving a tough time to Will Smith. And one of the things that very nicely captures the current situation in which robots are being perceived is the meme right in the bottom. So technologically speaking, we are somewhere closer to, let me just show my pointer. Yeah, technologically speaking, we are somewhere near, making a vacuum robot. But let's say an accident or something of this happens, then this is what people see. So people see even our day-to-day Roomba bots as, predecessors of Skynet itself, right? So moving a bit more formally on the definition of a robot. So this is what is a definition of a robot as given by Google. So if a quick Google search should lead you to this, a machine resembling a human being and able to replicate certain human movements and functions automatically. Well, this definition is a little obsolete because in today's world, robots have become very ubiquitous. You can see them in many forms, different form factors. You can like even your voice assistants, like your Google Assistant, your Siri, they are also robots. They have some form of intelligence, and you have your programs automating. And at times, even when you fail, the CAPTCHA test, maybe you fall under the category of a robot. But nevertheless, in this workshop and in our simulation and whenever we define a robot, it's generally the most classical definition of it, where there is a physical system which is trying to interact with the real world. So essentially, it is a system which has physics. It is a system which is doing motion. It has something called as athletic intelligence. So out here, you can see a quadruped robot from MIT Cheetah doing a backflip. And then here you can see a manipulator doing a pan flip of a pancake. And then you have robots inspired from insects. And in the top, you have a robot from, having the morphology of a fish. Yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah, I didn't get you. Can I continue?
Yes.
Yeah. So as I was saying, these are the robots that are actively present now, and in the top and in the bottom right, you can actually see a bipedal robot, which doesn't resemble a human in any way, but still is able to walk. And most recently, this was the result from a company named Boston Dynamics, where you can see a biped and a four-legged robot doing a very elegant dance. So like this is something that is a breaking factor for the very definition, because I'm pretty sure these robots do a fantastic job in dancing than the roboticists who created them. So moving on a more formal definition to robotics. So this is the aspects, or the overall domain of robotics is very interdisciplinary, and you can broadly classify them into these four subdomains, namely hardware development and validation, robot control, planning and perception, software development and interfacing. So a quick overview on all of this. So in hardware development and validation, as I said earlier, a robot is a physical system. So it should interact with the world, through forces, through velocities, through physical interactions adhered by the laws of motion. So it's very important for you to make a system which is well addresses all the requirements of a task. So let's say the stress, the strength analysis, etc., etc. So whenever you design and develop a robot, and that comes under hardware development and validation. So following this closely, we have something called as robot control. So robot control is basically a better profound understanding of your system. So let's say you have a robot, you made a robot with the hardware and everything is ready. But unless and until you understand it, there is nothing desirable you can get out of it, right? So that is exactly what robot control is. So robot control deals with having mathematical models of your system and trying to get a desirable task or desirable motion or any desirable thing out of it, right? So an analogy for this can be something like, so as a child, you'll first learn how to walk, right? So you definitely, as a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old might know how to walk, but that does not necessarily mean he or she will know when and why and where to walk, right? So that's a problem. So robot control just answers the question on how to walk, or how to do a task, but still there is no notion of what to do, or where to do, or why to do, what is the right thing to do, decision making. So that takes us to the next subdomain, which is planning and perception. So if you see here, so planning and perception is the highest form of autonomy in robotics, which deals with getting decisions, optimizing something, trying to get the best task, So as an example, you can see here a quadruped trying to plan out or, map the walking trajectory in a cluttered environment. So be it stairs, slopes, it's trying to see its environment, perceive it, and try to make the best out of it, right? And similarly, in the right, you can see a self-driving car mapping its environment and taking the right decision to drive, right? So these three are more, technically define the idea of robotics, but something that binds all of this together and often underappreciated is the software development and interfacing. So the software development for robotics is very unique in the sense there are certain factors that don't actually occur in, when you develop a website or whatever. So for example, the communication and then like the interactions with the real world. So these things should be well modeled in the software as well. And hence it forms an integral part of robotics itself, right? So I hope that's too much of a formal definition or formal insight into robotics, but however, that's not our style. So what I'd like to do now is to take all of you through a very small journey of a project in robotics, right? So instead of just telling you or giving definitions of all of this, it will be better if I just walk you through such a journey which we took ourselves. So any robotics project starts with step 1, where you try to dream, where you want to do something cool, where you want to get inspired, or you need to solve a real world problem, right? Things like that. And then it quickly moves to step 2, where you draw, design, scribble, or, you basically brainstorm, transfer your raw ideas into more formal aspects. And then you have step 3, where you try to code and simulate it. So what we mean here is, though, like for example, you can see here, it's a 2-legged robot trying to walk, but it's not actually a robot. It's a synthetic rendering of that very robot, which I'll be explaining shortly, right? So following this step 3, you have step 4, which is very interesting and personally one of my favorites in any robotics project. It's when you get to go and build it. So it's when you see your robot coming alive, doing something that you always wanted it to do or intended it to. So here you can see me trying to fabricate a part of this bipedal robot in our laboratory facilities. So this journey is also equally interesting. And last but not the least, one of the important steps for any robotics project is iteration. So as you can see here, the robot at the right was the final product. But to get there, we actually had to go step by step, iterate it, the step from crap to something not crap, and finally the final version, right? So initially we start hacking stuff, whatever we had, cardboards, placards, we build something. We try to understand, and then based on understanding, we once again put it and iterate and come up with a better system. So this is an integral step of any robotics project, right? And finally, we, of course, after the successful completion of any work in robotics, you'll have these cool stuff that your robot is doing. So here, this project, we made a self-balancing bipedal robot, which eventually will walk someday. So as of now, it's able to dynamically balance. You can see here that the the thread or something is lagged. So I'm trying to perturb it and it's trying to get back its balance. Here I'm putting a load and here it's trying to do a moonwalk kind of thing. So the end result is definitely very exciting, but more than the end result, any such project, what it gives you is actually the journey itself. So the pursuit to such a result itself is very interesting and educational. So like a quick shout out to my team at the bottom. So this is us sometime, morning 4 o'clock in the lab trying to fabricate this. So it's just a journey that, is unparalleled, right? So that's exactly why we do robotics. So on that note, as shown by Antara earlier, so this is RoboReg, where we take up some novel projects. So these are some of the projects that I got to work with a very talented set of juniors back in my institute. So you can read more on this, check out at our website, RoboReg. So yeah, back to the workshop. So given that this is the generic journey or a conventional journey of a robotics project, what exactly is the motive of this workshop? So this workshop, let's assume, the step 1 and step 2, where you imagine and you come up, brainstorm and ideation process is done. Step 3 is actually where you need the technical expertise. And that's exactly where we come in, right? So where you need to code and simulate and understand your robot better, right? So this will be followed by building the hardware and iterating, but that is out of scope of this workshop. So moving on. So what is a simulation exactly? So a simulation is based on the process of modeling a real phenomenon with a set of mathematical formulas. Or in simple terms, it's just a virtual rendering or a very close proxy of a real world phenomena that you observe. For instance, all of you in your high school would have been familiar with physics, your pendulum problem, right? So in real world, you see the pendulum and you try to write a few laws, Newtonian mechanics, and try to have a mathematical model of the phenomena that is happening. Let's say the oscillation, or let's say collision, etc., etc. And that's exactly what is simulation. But before I proceed on why simulation is anywhere relevant to robotics, it's an interesting thought experiment that lies out there that, which hypothesizes that our very life is actually a computer simulation that's been rendered by a higher intellectual being, right? So it is definitely a possibility that, you and me are just characters of a simulation. So people who are interested, I encourage you to definitely check this out. But nevertheless, before we actually, lose our hope in our very existence and have an existential crisis, let's just first understand why simulation is relevant to robotics, right? So simulation is relevant because it helps you to quickly check the feasibility of your idea, right? So whatever be the domain or subdomain in which your idea is existing, you can quickly check whether the idea is really feasible, scalable, practical, and all these aspects. And the second thing, it's very quick to develop, deploy, and test. So what is the comparison scale here? So let's say you're trying to make a robot, it's really difficult. And let's say you do a test without actually validating it anywhere. You're most probably going to break it or, do something undesirable. So to prevent all this, simulation gives you like a possibility to quickly develop, deploy, and test. And simulations being just a piece of software, they are very cheap and cost efficient, right? So these are some of the reasons on why simulation is relevant to robotics. And more importantly, given that simulation is the way to go, there are plenty of options available for robotics. So to name a few, there is PyBullet, Gazebo, VREP, VBots, Mijoko, etc. So for this workshop, given that you guys are absolute beginners, so we chose PyBullet. So PyBullet is a rigid body and soft body dynamics engine, which does the exact simulation of robotics, as I mentioned earlier. But the reason for exclusively selecting PyBullet is that it's a very lightweight software and it's open source. So you don't need any license or any payment or anything to work with it. It's open source. And more importantly, it has a very active community. So it's not just us who will be able to solve your doubts, let's say mentors or whoever are these camp organizers, but also you can go out and get your doubts cleared. So it has a very active community. And it is entirely developed within a Python IDE. So it's very intuitive and easy for you to begin robot simulation. So there is no external dependencies as well. All you need to know is how to code in Python, which is very intuitive, and you're ready to make a robot do some real cool stuff. So you can, out here in the right, you can see the robot, some of the simulations in PyBullet. And with no time, I hope, all of you will be able to work on something this cool. Now, before proceeding any further, having understood what a simulation is, it's very important to understand the differences, right? So like on the right, you can see a real hardware system or a robot, right? On the left, you can actually see an equivalent and an exact replica of it in a PyBullet simulation. So what exactly is the difference? Well, if you see in the right, this robot has, a lot of electronic stuff going. There are wires, there are microprocessors, there are motors, right? So what I'm trying to, the point that I'm trying to make here is a hardware system generally has electronics, tight integration, and then you have dedicated software stacks, multiple software written, and then you have efficient, you need to have communication modules. So let's say there is a sensor, there is your computer, and then there is your motor. The intermediate communication is very important. And this, as in a real hardware system, is a classical example of physics plus engineering, right? But if you see the equivalent in a simulation, we don't care about electronics. So you can't, you won't be able to see the electronics on this image in the left, right? So, and then there is no middleware. There is no need for having a software. That is not the objective. And then there is no need for any communication. You want to get something done, it directly, you can just code it and it will happen. And this is more or less just the physics. So a simulation just handles with the physical aspects of the robot. So what I mean here is, let's say, position, velocity, acceleration, how you interact, how the physics works. That's all about the simulation. And the final and one of the most critical differences between them is a simulation is always deterministic and has ideal conditions. So what I mean by deterministic is, let's say you have a specific set of initial conditions and they're doing an experiment today, tomorrow, or 100 days after. The result of that experiment will be exactly the same. So that is exactly what I mean by saying deterministic. So it's just an equation and it will just unfold it. So the results will always be the same. But on the real system, let's say you do an experiment today and let's say you do the same experiment tomorrow, there might be some noise. So sensors in real systems are prone to noise. And let's say your battery might get shifted, or some screws might get loose. So all these are examples of stochasticity, essentially noise and uncertainties, right? So let's say I get a result today. It's highly probable that I might not be able to resemble it tomorrow, right? That's the dynamics of the real system, right? So the main agenda here is, through simulation, trying to get a deterministic solution and trying to extrapolate it or scale it up to a system which actually is stochastic, but we are able to get through, right? We're able to push it to do desirable activities. So on that note, that's the story for now, or basically the introduction to robotics and simulation. So it's time for all of you to get something done, go break some eggs. And given that you're familiar with Python now, our motto of this workshop, or in general at our club at IIT PSU, is this. So you just connect PyBullet.connect your simulation. And unless and until your robot's performance is less than your imagination, just keep doing awesome simulations, right? So that's our motto, and that's what we are driven by, and that led to all these awesome projects that you saw. And I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to do that with you as well. So on that note, let me just hand it over to Naitik to take it from here and introduce you to the concepts of PyBullet. So over to you, Naitik.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, now can you see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, good. So good evening, guys. Today I would be showing you some basic stuffs of PyBullet. Okay, so starting with so we will start off with URDF. So URDF is a unique robot description file, and it contains how our robot looks like. Actually, it has all the information about it. So its definition goes like this. It is basically a file which contains all the information about how will the bot will look, its color, weight, and all its property. It's not just a bot, but for any object in simulation like a box. So now we move on forward and look what it is made up of. So philosophically speaking, a robot is constructed of rigid bodies and joints. So we call these rigid bodies as links and joints as joints only. So in links, we have um, a particular link called base link. So this is the primary link, as the name suggests. Okay, this is the primary link of the bot to which all the other parts of the links are joined. So in this picture, you can see this black box. So in this case, our base link would be this black box, as all the other components are joined to this red wheel, and this blue wheel. Okay, so and now the parent and child links. So before going over to that, we let's check out what are joints. So joint is any form of motion causing interlinkages are called as joints. So like in this case, this wheel and this box are joined at this point. So this is our joint for this case at here. And in this case, our parent link would be this box and the child link would be this wheel, as this wheel is connected to the base link, not the other way around. So moving forward, generally we describe our UDF files like this in theory. So this is link one. What is a link one? In most of the cases, it would be our base link. At this, and we now if we have link 3 and link 2, which are connected using joint 1 and joint 2, and link 4 is connected to link 3 as joint 3. Well, you can see arrows in these pictures. What these are depicting are which one of the for the joints, which one of the links are the parent links. So for, let's see in this example, for link 1 and link 2, arrow is pointing toward this. So for this, link 1 is a parent link to which link 2 is joined using joint 1. In link 3 and link 1, our link 3 is joined to the link 1, where link 1 is our again parent link, and link 3 is the child link for the joint 2. In link 4 and link 3, see the arrow, as you can search it, already guess our link. In this case, link 3 is going to be our parent link, and link 4 is going to be our child link for the joint 3. So in PyBullet, there are 6 types of joint that we can use to create different kinds of robots. The first one is fixed. Like in this case, all the wheels, like this wheel, and this wheel, are actually joined here. So when they are joined together using fixed link, our wheel cannot rotate. Okay. Second one is revolute. So revolute is a joint. It supports rotation in one dimension. So suppose in this figure, if this base link, child link is connected to this parent link using a revolute joint, so then this wheel can rotate like this to the like this. Okay, moving forward, then we have continuous joint. Well, continuous joint and a revolute joint are very similar, but for revolute joint, there is a constraint that you cannot move a joint more than by a particular degree. Like for a revolute joint, I can maybe I can rotate see, like only this much. I've put in constraint that my joint cannot move more than this. So if I try to move more than that in PyBullet, it will stop here only. Otherwise, if I define a joint using continuous, this joint as continuous, then you can rotate it as much as you want, and PyBullet won't stop you. So there are chats. Okay. is this the part of making? No, this is the part of how you design a robot. So very similar kind of that, but not really. So we have now prismatic joint. So prismatic joint, I have a picture of prismatic joint. Okay. So this is a prismatic joint. It allows you to translation of one link in one dimension. It's like a matchbox. Like you can open the matchbox like this only. No rotation, only translation. Okay. Now we have planar joint. Planar joint is like a prismatic joint, but instead of translation in one direction, it allows translation in two dimensions. And a floating joint allows you to unlimited motions. So you can move in and once two links are joined using floating joint. So you can freely rotate the child link in any direction. So here I have some of the pictures of some of the joints like revolute joint, cylindrical joint, universal joint, spherical joint, helical joint, prismatic joint. So in PyBullet, we have this revolute joint, prismatic joint, universal joint. This universal joint is nothing but this floating joint and spherical. Yeah, that much. We have that much only. So now the robot coordinates. So when we load a robot in a simulation, so the simulation has an coordinate system. But when we spawn a robot in our simulation, then this robot has also another coordinate system, which is fixed to the robot only. So both of them are independent. So you can see in this robot, here is the robot coordinates. So this is going to be independent of the simulation. Okay. So as you have been, it is very boring to hear all the theory part of it. Now I'm going to show the simulation of it, of what we have all discussed so far. So, okay. So okay. Here I have, okay, so let me start with, okay, box URDF, Control A, C. So now this is how URDF file looks like. It has, first of all, robot name. It has different links, like this is the base link. It has inertial component, visual component, and collision component. So let's me copy it and visualize it in a website called this. I will provide you this website in the Discord server and in the repo also. So Control V. So there you can actually load the URDF file and look at it. So as I have loaded my URDF file, you can see it. So in the Z direction, you can see, if I scroll down, our visual parameters. So it is a box of size 0.2 in X direction, 0.2 in Y direction, that is this green, and 0.3 units in the Z direction. Somebody's typing in the chat. I can't see the chat box. Where is it?
Never mind, Naitik, you can continue. The other trainers will respond.
Okay, cool. So here I have loaded a box at origin with the as I told you, it has dimensions of 0.2 in the x direction.
Naitik, your screen is, I guess, not visible.
Okay, wait a minute. I cannot open my Zoom controls. I don't know what happened.
Maybe you can leave the meeting once and join again.
Okay, can you see it now?
Now it is sharing.
Okay. So let me tell you how to tweak this. If you want to load a box of different directions or dimensions, so you go to visual parameter. In this, then you go into geometry and then change. Let us change this box size x dimension, that is in this is red line, to 1.2 from 0.2 units. So you can see it has changed. Now let's change y in y direction from 0.2 to, let's say, 0.5. So in this green dimension, it has also changed. So okay. Now one more thing. Really control V. Now, as I told you, there is our robot. Okay, let's go back to the slides. Our robots have different coordinate systems from the simulation. So you can do that also here. So suppose you want to spawn this box at here instead of at center. So what you do, you go to visual, origin, and change this XYZ parameters. So suppose I want to translate in this direction, load at this point. So what I'll do, I'll take this X, Y, Z, okay, Z, and I'll change it to a different value. Let's say 0.9. So you can see the bot has been spawned at this position. I can do this same as for Y, X and Y also. Let's say 0.5 for the X. So it has now spawned at here, where our origin of our box is at 0.05 in X directions from the simulation coordinate system. So let me repeat again. So the coordinate system of this robot is at 0.5 units away in X direction from the coordinate space of the simulation. So now we have more terms to tweak here. They are RPY. So RPY are roll, pitch, yaw. So these are used to rotate your model. So let's tweak them and see what happens. So first one is R. R is roll. So when I will change, and remember, these values are in radians. So we have to change them in radians only. So let's change the roll by 45 degrees. So 45 degrees almost 0.57. Okay, sorry, I've changed inertial, not the visual. That's why you can't see it. So let me go down, visual, origin, 0.57. So you can see it has rotated by almost 45 degrees. You can do this same as for another. Now you can do this for pitch also. Now see, instead of earlier it rotated like this, now it has rotated about green axis. Okay, you can do also combination of both. So let's do combination of roll and pitch. So you can see now it has neither in green blue plane, neither in red blue plane or green red plane. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, so that's enough for now. Okay. Okay, one more thing. Let's load this URDF file in PyBullet. I forgot to do that. Let's do that. So here I have my URDF PyBullet file. So first of all, you have to import PyBullet as import PyBullet as P, then import time. Later it would be used to step the simulation by a particular time, then import PyBullet data. So what does this do? It takes the inbuilt data of the PyBullet. So after that, to do our simulation, we have to connect to a client. So for mostly we do p.connect.p.gui to get our graphical interface. Okay, hi, where I can open the URDF file. Well, it is an online website. I will share it with you later on. But you can also search always URDF online, and you will get this as top result. This website is mymodelrobot.avspot.com. Okay. So import PyBullet as data. Then we set p.set additional search path PyBullet data.get data path. So what did this do? It takes what are the already existing assets in our library and finds them. So suppose I have done this plain id.p.load.urdf then or plain.urdf, but I haven't provided any address where it is loaded. So what it would do, it would find whether it is already existing in our Python PyBullet library, and if it's there, it will load it. Okay. Now p.set gravity, what it does, it sets the gravity of our simulation to any value that we define. So this is 0 in x-axis, y 0 in y-axis, -10 in z-axis. That is normally we do have in our real life. Right now you should focus on this. Okay. So who wrote that actually? Continue. So we now define the cube start position, that is where we want to spawn this our robot, this URDF file. So this is going to be 0 in x direction, 0 in y direction, 1 in z direction of the simulation. And this we define as cube start orientation. This is get quaternion from Euler. So we define the Euler, that is RPY we discussed earlier, RPY value of how it should be loaded. And then we give the box ID as plain.load.urdf, box.urdf. Here is a box.urdf in the same folder. Where should it spawn, and in which orientation it should spawn. And then we run this simulation by typing p.step simulation in a for loop or a while loop, and adding this time.sleep, we get a simulation after 1/240th of a second. So let me run it. So here the box loaded, and because I've set the gravity to -10, it has fall down. Okay. So let's do one more thing. Instead of defining it as -10, let's define as 10. So in this case, okay, instead of going down, it will go up. So you can also do these things with your URDF file. many really crazy stuff you can do with it. So here I've changed the orientation in that is yaw of the valve. If now I can change this roll. Yeah. So that's it for now. Let's move forward. So, okay. Now the configuration space. So configuration space, basically, when we load a UDF file, a complicated one, so our robot can take very different configurations. Here we loaded only one link, that is base link. So we can't do much, couldn't show many things, but let's suppose, let's take example actually. Let's take our example of an arm of a robot. So now what you can see is a long cylinder, but actually these are two cylinders connected at here at midpoint. So yeah. So let's continue with what I was saying. So the configuration space. So configuration space is the different configurations our robot can take. So in this case, our configuration would be for this joint link, it can take, okay, it can take from -3 radians to 2-3 radians. And for this link, it can also go from 3 radians to -3 radians. And the total number of permutations and combination of this configuration is what we call as configuration space. And now the task space. Task space is the area in which our robot can work. For in this example, let me load it again at 0. Control A, Control V. Okay. So for in this space, our robot can go from here to here. In this, in the area in this part, it the area it sweeps is the task space in which our robot can work. Yes, here to here, then here. The amount of space our robot can sweep from here to here in all configurations is what we refer as our task space. So in this case, it is going to be a incomplete circle, that is 0, 0, this much. So this much is going to be our task space. Now comes base position and orientation. I've already shown you what, just showed you base position and orientation. I showed you orientation. So let's discuss it once again. So base position and orientation will be the initial orientation when our robot or the URDF file will be spawned in our simulation. In base position, we can give 3 parameters, that is going to be X, Y, Z coordinates in the simulation according to the coordinate system of the simulation. And base orientation is normally given in quaternion. So quaternion is a higher dimensional number. It has 4 parts. So you can't actually explain them easily. So we would skip this part, but what we would discuss is the Euler angles. What we can discuss right now is Euler angles, because pi bullets lets you where file, okay, lets you change Euler angles. Euler, we have 3 Euler angles: roll, pitch, and yaw. And quaternion and pi bullet changes our Euler to quaternions by itself. So we don't need to discuss right now what is quaternion, but we would provide you resources. So if you want to go depth of in learn it in depth, you can do that also. So base position. So pivots lets you change the spawn base position and orientation of a UIDF file when it is loaded, when it is initially spawned. So here, let's say our starting position, what we are divided uh, defined as 0 in X, 0 in Y, and Z as 1 units. So gravity minus, let me change it back to -10. And let's change this from 1 to 2. Pardon, I opened the wrong file, box.py. So, okay. This is our cube start position 0, 0, 1, which we saw earlier. Let's change this to 1 to 2 for the Z axis. So as you see, it started from here instead of here. So let's change it even more, 3. So now it's spawned even higher. Now change to 15. Now it will spawn would be even higher, at an even higher position. Yeah, kind of really high. Okay, now that was in Z direction. Now we can also change it in X and Y direction. So let's change it from X direction. So yeah, see, it has moved 1 unit in our X dimension. So let's change this even more. So now it has moved by 2 units. Okay, just spawn it at -2 in Z direction. What happens then? Okay, 0. So what was this? -2 or -1? I think it was -2. See what happened. It actually had some live error. It went up instead of down. So this happens a lot of time that simulation cannot simulate a real world scenario. For example, a Newton's cradle. You must have seen a Newton's cradle, but to simulate a perfect Newton's cradle in a simulation is a very real hard task. It is really difficult. It happens just the collisions cannot transfer at the same pace as it happens in real life. So does anyone also want to spawn it at some at different position? Write in the comment box. Okay, no. So let's move forward. So let's change the recurring decimal. Okay. Well, that's what would happen. Nothing. The Python would truncate the value, after which it cannot actually store. So that won't make a difference at all. So you can keep on increasing 3, but that is something what Python would do. That it would truncate after a certain number of digits and only take that much into account. Like suppose it can only take account into 10 digits. So after that, it won't take account into these digits. Okay. Okay, Z equals to -2, gravity +10. Okay. And gravity +10. See, same thing happened again. And it would keep on going in that direction. So what did you think? So it would go down with positive. Yeah, it's a space launch. Okay, nice. So let's move on to our orientation. So we would be providing the orientation in Euler angles, that is roll, pitch, and yaw. So let's change first the roll. So in Python file, so you can, okay, wait, what did I do? Okay. So this is roll, that is changing like axis in is in red z x direction. If we put gravity in x or y direction, it means like normal direction. Absolutely. Would you like to see it? I can show that to you right now. Wait. Can it spin? Can it spin? Well, you can do such things, but I have to think how to do it. I have to use more commands. You can't do this with these conditions. You have to add more lines of code, and you can particularly do that. Chat. Okay. Yep. So let's change our okay, gravity in x plane. So let's see what happens. Okay, it's already running. See. Oh, okay. So even I have defined roll as 0.57. Now it is accelerating in this direction. We can even actually check the speed also is increasing. That thing how speed is checked would be told to you, would be told tomorrow. For now, let's okay, chat. Centripetal acceleration, please. How would you do given centripetal acceleration? Okay. Right now, I think I won't be do it. It would take some time, but we can surely do that also. We can keep on changing. Okay. Suppose, how would you do it? Suppose this is a, you spawn it here, and when its position is here, let's take the top view. When it is here, apply acceleration this direction. When it is here, apply direction acceleration is here, then here, and you have to also give some velocity during start when motion starts. So you can do it that way, but right now I think you don't know how to set the velocity, so that would be done tomorrow. So you can do that tomorrow, how to do that. Check that out. Acceleration should be specific values or can be an expression also. What do you mean by an expression? You like some code? Yep, it can be. Surely it can be. Absolutely. So moving onward. So did you guys get what is base orientation or base position or orientation? Can we move forward? Yep. Okay. Nice. So let's load R2D2 in Python. You guys must have done it. Let's do this again. So R2D2.py. First, let's open its file. We'll see how does it look like. So here we have our R2D2. And you can see here, there are no joints. So this is you cannot change this wheel direction. You cannot, like in real case, our R2D2 won't be like this. It would be slanted forward. So let's load this file. So you can see nothing is happening. Why is that so? Because we have set the gravity to 0. But let's see what happens if I set to 10. It starts moving again. Okay, so the same thing we have done. So let's load a moving R2D2. As somebody asked, can it be a function? So here you can see where is our gravity. See, we have set the gravity as a function of x, and where x is decreasing, keeps on decreasing by 0.01 up to 6.92. So let's load this. Okay, wait. Let's first see what is happening in the file. So first the basic stuff. We import pybullet as p, import time as import pybullet data. This is done, so we can load the plane.udf file. So even the plane has to be loaded. Remember, guys, even this plane has to be loaded, which I just showed. Okay. So I imported pybullet data. I loaded the physics client that is in graphical interface. Then, okay, can we set an initial velocity to the object we spawn? Of course you can. Of course you can. That would be done in the later part of the workshop. That is, I think most probably tomorrow it would be done. Yeah. So we also told you in the logistic parts that it would be done on the dynamics part of the robot. So now I define my robot start position as 2 in x-axis, x dimension, 2 in y dimension, and 1 in z dimension. And the orientation would be 0, 0, 0. All 3 Euler angles as 0. Now I load this R2D2 URDF at this position 2, 2, 1, and orientation that is the quaternion equivalent to this. Then I'm changing this coordinate to 0, 0, 1. This is sim to real transfer of how's the sim to real transfer for deep reinforcement learning done on pybullet. I think Sanidhya can answer that better because he has done some robot learning. So you can ask that trainer later on. So now we have loaded in R2D2 at position 2, 2, 1 R2D2.urdf. Now we are changing it to 0, 0, 1 and Euler angle as 0, 0, 1 and the same line of code. p.load.urdf R2D2 robot to start. Okay, this is to start pose. This line looks familiar, but it would, and the file is also same URDF file loaded twice. So it would give us 2 R2D2 and they both would be independent. And now what we are doing, we are defining an variable x equals to 0. For I in range 10,000, we are increasing x by 0.01, that is 100th of a 1 by 100 up to the value is 6.91. And then what we are doing, we are setting the gravity as corresponding to x. As someone asked, can we define it as a function? Yes, this is how you define it as a function. We're defining it as minus x in x dimension and minus x in y dimension. So x is a variable not to be confused with the coordinate system of the simulation. And then we step the simulation. And what happens after 6x has become 6.92, our x becomes again 0. It removes the both R2D2 and then load them again where we loaded them initially. So let's see what happens in actual. So you can see this is XY direction, that is 45 degree. They keep on going. Now X has become 6.92. So they have loaded at these positions again. Okay, so now let's move forward. So the simulation part was, did you like it? Was it really awesome? Yes. Only 2 people liked it. Okay, 3. Yeah, nice. That's like nice. Thanks. So, okay. So these files would be shared with you. They have already been shared on the GitHub repo. Just clone them, clone the repo, try to change the values, try to do the different things as you want to do, and many more. So that's it from my side. So thank you guys.
Yeah, Vamsi, I think we are done with the presentation for today. Should we proceed with the doubt sessions regarding PyBullet installation or any other doubts regarding today's workshop?
Yes, like if anyone has any questions or if anyone is facing any issues with regards to installing PyBullet, I think they can ask right now. Or if they have any doubts regarding the concepts which are discussed today.
Yeah, probably you can stop the recording, I guess. After this, just a doubt solving session. So presentation is done. So before we proceed any further, I'd like to give an answer to one of the questions. I think it was on sim to real, right? Yeah. So